NATO gambled that they were going to be able to put all this resources into Ukraine to create this proxy that would have that would create a resource problem for Russia. They were also gambling that they could combine the military pressure with the economic pressure, that they could sanction Russia and get the economy to break. And they were gambling that the economy would cause the political will of the Russian people to collapse, and that the confluence of military defeat, economic disaster, and loss of political support would lead to Putin's demise. All right, that's like me walking into a casino and saying, I'm going to simultaneously play blackjack, roulette, and craps, and I have to win on all three, and in order to make money. It's stupid. Never was going to happen.
Ukraine's defeat appears inevitable, and NATO's proxy war strategy is crumbling before our eyes. Today, we'll dissect Scott Ritter's incisive analysis of why this conflict is slipping beyond Ukraine's grasp and what it means for the broader geopolitical landscape. The situation in Ukraine has reached a critical tipping point. According to Scott Ritter, Ukraine's forces are being overwhelmed on multiple fronts. Despite substantial NATO involvement, the sustainability of Ukraine's defense is in serious doubt. Ritter paints a grim picture of a conflict spiraling beyond Ukraine's control, with NATO's strategy faltering in the face of Russia's relentless advance. Key to understanding this situation is the repeated failure of Ukraine's military efforts. Ukraine's prospects for victory are increasingly unrealistic, with its military forces being repeatedly destroyed and necessitating continuous rebuilding efforts. This cycle of defeat and reconstruction is unsustainable in the long term. NATO forces are unprepared for long-term field engagements due to lack of real combat experience. This lack of preparedness is starkly contrasted with Russia's extensive war experience, which has allowed it to adapt and strengthen its military capabilities throughout the conflict. Perhaps most surprisingly, Russia's ability to manage its economy during the conflict has exceeded all initial Western predictions. Far from collapsing under the weight of sanctions, Russia's economy has thrived, with high employment and improved living standards. This economic resilience has significantly undermined NATO's strategy, which heavily relied on economic pressure to force Russia's capitulation. Let's break this down further. Russia's military strategy is proving devastatingly effective. Ritter points out that the Russian army now kills without hesitation. This battle-hardened force is facing off against NATO-backed Ukrainian troops who, in many cases, lack combat experience. As Ritter puts it, it's like boxers. You know, it's not just about you punching somebody, it's about somebody punching you. And you gotta not only be able to deliver a punch, but you got to be able to take a punch. This analogy underscores a crucial point: the disparity in real combat experience between Russian and Ukrainian forces. Russia's military has been actively engaged in this conflict for an extended period, allowing them to refine their tactics and adapt to the realities of modern warfare. In contrast, many Ukrainian troops, despite NATO training, lack the kind of sustained combat experience that builds resilience and tactical flexibility. Furthermore, Ritter highlights the logistical nightmares facing NATO forces. He notes, "Now you're in the field. You don't get to go back to your maintenance facility to maintain. You have to have field maintenance. Have you practiced that? Do you have the spare parts? Do you have the fuel? Do you have the ammunition?" These challenges are proving insurmountable for the Ukrainian forces and their NATO backers. This focus on logistics is critical. Modern warfare requires not just advanced weaponry, but also the ability to maintain and supply these systems in the field. NATO's lack of preparedness in key logistics and strategy has exposed its weaknesses. The ability to conduct field maintenance, ensure a steady supply of fuel and ammunition, and adapt to rapidly changing battlefield conditions are all areas where NATO forces are struggling. In contrast, Russia's military has demonstrated a superior ability to manage these logistical challenges. Their experience in sustained field operations has allowed them to develop robust supply chains and maintenance protocols that can withstand the rigors of prolonged combat. This logistical advantage, combined with their combat experience, has contributed significantly to Russia's military success in the conflict. The implications of this situation are far-reaching. NATO's gamble has backfired spectacularly. Ritter likens their strategy to walking into a casino and saying, "I'm going to simultaneously play blackjack, roulette, and craps, and I have to win on all three in order to make money." This multifaceted approach of military pressure, economic sanctions, and attempts to erode Russian political will has, in Ritter's view, failed on all fronts. This failure stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of Russia's capabilities and resilience. NATO's strategy was based on several assumptions: that sanctions would cripple Russia's economy, that military pressure would overwhelm Russian forces, and that these combined pressures would erode political support for the war within Russia. However, each of these assumptions has proven incorrect. Ritter points out that Russia's economy, far from collapsing under sanctions, is thriving. He states, "Russia's thriving today, thriving." I've been there. I'm just telling you, it's not just Moscow and St. Petersburg, it's all of Russia. It's an economic boom. This economic resilience further undermines NATO's strategy and strengthens Russia's position in the conflict. The failure of sanctions has had a boomerang effect, causing more damage to European economies than to Russia's. This economic strain is now putting pressure on European countries to reassess their support for the conflict. Many European nations are gradually recognizing that continuing the war is against their national interests. The conflict has revealed profound weaknesses in NATO's military capabilities and strategic planning. The alliance's forces have been shown to lack the combat readiness needed to match Russia's extensive war experience. This disparity in military effectiveness has serious implications for NATO's deterrence posture and its ability to project power globally. Ritter makes bold predictions, stating that Russia will inevitably win this conflict due to various contributing factors. He believes NATO's errors have created a scenario in which Ukraine has already lost, and there is no viable Ukrainian strategy for victory. Everyone who examines this dismisses it as a joke. This assessment is based on several key factors. Firstly, Ritter points to the repeated collapse of Ukraine's military forces, which he sees as demonstrating the futility of the war. Despite continuous rebuilding efforts supported by NATO, Ukraine has been unable to gain a decisive military advantage. Secondly, Ritter emphasizes Russia's superior military capabilities, especially in strategic defense, which have far exceeded NATO's expectations. The conflict has revealed that Russia is more adept at both modern warfare and diplomacy than Western analysts had anticipated. Looking ahead, Ritter foresees significant geopolitical shifts. He predicts that Ukraine won't exist when this war ends, as it is currently configured, and that peace will only come by terms dictated by Russia. This outcome, according to Ritter, will likely include demilitarization, denazification, hopefully the end of Bandera's ultranationalism, and permanent neutrality for Ukraine. Ritter also suggests that the possibility of Ukraine joining NATO is virtually impossible given its current situation. He argues that neutrality is Ukraine's only viable future, a stance that directly contradicts previous Western aspirations for the country. Moreover, Western leaders who champion the war are losing political capital as public opinion shifts. European countries are backtracking on their previous support for Ukraine, especially due to internal pressures. This changing political landscape in Europe could lead to a significant realignment of alliances and priorities in the region. Scott Ritter's analysis paints a bleak picture for Ukraine and NATO's proxy war strategy. With Ukrainian forces facing overwhelming odds, logistical nightmares, and a resilient Russian economy, the conflict seems to be heading towards an inevitable conclusion. As European support wavers and the reality of the situation sets in, we may be witnessing the final stages of this devastating conflict. The war has exposed critical weaknesses in NATO's military readiness and strategic planning. It has demonstrated that the alliance's forces lack the combat experience and logistical capabilities necessary for sustained field operations. This revelation has significant implications for NATO's future role and effectiveness as a military alliance. If you enjoy these type of reports, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.